Hey guys, welcome to this very special video. We're going to talk about the Wyatt Sicks. I'm going to talk about the Wyatt Sicks for about 10 minutes. And we have got so much to talk about, so much to cover. We've got fan theories, we've got concerns. We're going to take a little look back, we're going to look forwards. We're going to just get everything into one video rather than talking about them in unscenes and doing bits and bobs in live streams. We're just going to get everything into one video and we're going to see where we are, where we could be going, and is this the end? Is this the end? And it might seem very dramatic to kind of be talking about that, and I would agree, but if you was to see my notifications, if you was to see the amount of people that had been in touch saying they're done, it's over, they're not interested anymore, this was a step too far. And what we're talking about, of course, is Smackdown, because it was believed that they were going to be at Smackdown, and of course they weren't. And Wyatt Sicks fans haven't had loads of Wyatt Sicks to enjoy since they have made their debut. Actually, their appearances have been very rare. And when we do get them, they're not always the most impactful of appearances, right? But it really felt like we were going to get them on Friday on SmackDown. And why did it feel that way? Well, it felt that way because, of course, on Monday, Karrion revealed that the Wyatt Sicks had been moved. Joe Gacy sent out an image of the SmackDown fist that seemed to confirm that news. Then, of course, we had activity on the Wyatt Sicks account, which I have here. And this was an image that had J137 written 17 times. It had ECCL31 written once. And a brilliant theory from Kelly the Wise Lady was that 17-1 or 117 could mean 17th of January, which would be SmackDown. And obviously on Monday we found out they'd been moved to SmackDown. Add in the fact that whenever we get this kind of activity on their X accounts, it tends to be around the times that we see them. And maybe if it was just this in isolation, maybe we wouldn't have kind of really got so worked up. But literally the day before SmackDown, we had this. And this time there was only one JHN137. And this again is about patience, right? It's about being patient. But so that might as well just say patience, right? But the fact there was only one of them, and it was the day before, it felt like they were saying 1 day to go. You've just got to be patient for one more day. Now, maybe we read it wrong, right? Perhaps that's on us. But when you see them so rarely, when you do actually get something like this, you can sort of understand why the fans just jump onto it and get so excited, and why they would read into these things. And honestly, I don't know if they were meant to be on SmackDown or not. Who knows? Perhaps they were, and perhaps there was some issue. Perhaps there was something going on behind the scenes that prevented it. We just don't know, right? And part of that is the problem, because it's never concrete as to when we're going to see them. I would actually much rather have it announced that the Wyatt Sicks are going to be there next week and know that they're going to be there, rather than trying to decode when we might see them only to get our hopes up and then have them dashed. I think there is one thing that I am done with. I think there is one thing that even I'm like, I'm not interested in that anymore. And it's not the group, but it is the endless speculation of, will it be this show? Will it be that show? I'm done with that. There is a theory that's done the rounds, and it's doing the rounds at the moment. I want to shout out NJ94, and I want to shout out to Jinder, right? Because collectively, they've both kind of brought me the same information. Jinder tagged me in a Triple H interview, and Triple H is talking about how if we could do the Bloodline and the Wyatt Sicks, like that would be special, right? And that was all the way back in June. He made those comments. Of course, now we think they've been moved to SmackDown. We think they're not too far away from being on TV. And so you look around the landscape of SmackDown as to who their potential opponents could be. And really, there's not many options for factions. And of course, you do have the Bloodline. It feels like Solo is sort of done with Roman, done with the OG Bloodline. The OG Bloodline seemingly going on to new challenges. So what does the future hold for the Bloodline, for Jacob, for Tama, for Solo? Could it be that they are about to cross paths with the Wyatt Sicks? I think that feud happens. Whether it happens now, I'm not 100%, because we could do this feud like around WrestleMania. We could do this feud after WrestleMania. We could do it in the summer, right? There's loads of occasions where we could do Wyatt Sicks against like Solo, Jacob, and all of those guys. Do we do it now? And the theory that NJ94 put forward was, what if 17-1 was just the start of this story? And what if the start of the story was Braun and Jacob being in a match at Saturday night's main event? And what if at Saturday night's main event, Jacob has the bloodline helping him, and of course Braun is outnumbered, and then that is where we get the Wyatt Sicks, and then that is where it leads into a feud with the bloodline. Now, what I would say is, I have no issue with any of that. It all adds up. It all makes sense. But I can't start getting excited for Saturday night's main event only to get there and then no Wyatt Sicks, right? That's the part of it that I think I'm done with, is this kind of endless, oh, it could be this show, it could be that show. You know, their next feud might not even be the bloodline. I mean, on Monday, we might find out that Judgment Day have moved over, right? It might turn out that Judgment Day have now moved over to SmackDown. And then it actually turns out that the Wyatt Sicks are going to move on to them. And the reason why I mention that is because there was this image from a SmackDown, I think this was in December, of Nick Aldis having a word with Dominic Mysterio. Now, this is when that transfer window had been mentioned, and we started to see people having conversations with the GMs. I would say this transfer window's been a bit botched, because I don't know when it's opened, I don't know when it closes. I really feel like that has not been communicated very well. So we saw this conversation here between these two, and so there was a lot of theories that this could be Judgment Day coming to SmackDown. Maybe it's not all of Judgment Day. Maybe he is just trying to get Finn and JD McDonough transferred to SmackDown. Maybe he's trying to negotiate himself, Raquel, and Liv going to SmackDown. Or maybe he's trying to negotiate all of Judgment Day coming to SmackDown. We don't know. But we do know this conversation was had in the background. And we do know that whenever that has happened, it tends to be about this transfer window. So we could be on the verge of Judgment Day moving. They could move Monday, right? We could find out Monday that they've moved. And then all of a sudden, the theory of Bloodline and Wyatt Sicks being next would go out the window, because the rumor was, after Final Testament, the next group, and it was just a rumor, but the next group, the next faction that they were going to go after was going to be Judgment Day. And, you know, again, it just doesn't add up, does it? Because now we find that they've gone to SmackDown. There's no Judgment Day on SmackDown. Now people are theorizing that it could be Bloodline. And it's just, honestly, it's just never-ending speculation. And it's never-ending getting your hopes up. And I'm sort of done with that side of it personally. And as we said, look, there's a lot of heartache and heartbreak that's out there at the moment. Rob Fee has seen this. Hang tight, y'all. Yeah, the head of character development for WWE. But for me, there's three reasons as to why this is not done. There's three reasons as to why this is not the end. The first one is we don't know what's happening. Maybe they were meant to be there on Friday. Perhaps those clues were meant to lead us towards SmackDown. But there was a flight delay. There was an illness. You know, something along those lines. You never quite know, do you? You never quite know what's happening behind the scenes. And until we get some clarity on that, it's hard to say, right? The other thing as well, though, is the fact that everything can be fixed. I mean, I know that them moving to SmackDown has upset people, but it hasn't upset people, the moving to SmackDown. It's the fact we didn't finish the feud with Final Testament. That's upset people, because people wanted that feud to be resolved. And so the fact that they're moving mid-feud, and it is mid-feud, because on Raw Talk, they advertised a final showdown, and we've never had that. It was going to be the final showdown. It was going to be the Wyatt Sicks against the Final Testament in a final showdown. There's no sight of that anymore, no sign of that anymore. And so people are frustrated because well, this group is meant to be righting wrongs, dishing out justice. And instead, we've got rare appearances, Howdy losing, right? Getting powder in his face and losing and then going missing. And we don't know where he's gone, right? And really, should he go away for such a minor thing? Having a powder thrown in your face by Paul Ellering, like, this group should be able to weather that. That should not really be an issue for this group. We want this group to be badasses. We want this group to cause carnage. We want this group to strike fear in people's hearts. That's what we want this group doing. And so to see Uncle Howdy have some powder in his face and then go missing for weeks on end is not where people want this group to be. I don't believe that they have lost confidence in this group, but I would love to know what has happened. And if the answer was that just other things took priority, to be quite frank, that's not good enough. But that does bring me to the third point, and that is Bray. This is the third reason why this is not over, because of Bray. Because Bray's power, his connection with the fans was so strong. The Fireflies will always be there. And you can always have this group show up. And because of their connection with Bray, because we've got such a love for his work, like, this group is not going to turn into the next Retribution. Everyone wants this to succeed, which is why it cannot fail, right? It can be mismanaged, and the creative can be underwhelming, but it's never going to truly fail because it can always be saved. It can always be turned around, and there's too much goodwill there. So I hear what Rob Fee is saying about hang tight. I hear that, and I hope you hear that as well. But one thing that I think definitely is done for me is the endless speculation of, do you think they'll be on this show? Do you think they'll be on that show? I'm really at the point where I'm like, let's wait and see. Because I would much rather get them in and know what we're getting and build from that and take it from there. Because otherwise we just run the risk of being disappointed again and again and again and again and again. Let me leave you with one thought though, right? And I am going to just slightly go against what I've said before. And that is that not that long ago, we did get this image. This was actually on one of the QR code websites. And it's clearly an image of Rowan with Braun, right? And so this obviously felt like it was building towards something with Braun maybe coming into the group or working with the group. And that is another reason as to why people think that we could actually get the Wyatts working with Braun starting at Saturday night's main event. So I hope that whatever communication comes out next is going to be clear. I hope that they will be at Saturday night's main event, but I'm not going to start getting my hopes up for it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the support. Bye for now.